What's up, my loves and fellow creatives? I am working on the content for tonight's course, which will be a step and repeat banner. So as I'm working through it, I figured y'all could sit along with me. So those of you who are interested in completely building from scratch, this is free game. For those of you who will be attending class tonight, I am going to give you this template will be a ultimate kind of cheat sheet, but of course you're still going to be learning how to do a lot of the Photoshop actions, or not actions necessarily, but features. And I'm going to show you basically my logic when I build something from the ground up. So I don't show this often because usually it takes hours upon hours. But hopefully it won't take that today, and I can show you all something from the ground up without boring you to death. So what I'm going to do is I have a few images that I have from another website where they kind of show you layouts for step and repeat, and I'm going to do like a single logo, then I'll do a 2 logo layout, then I'll do a 3 and a 4 logo layout. So let's see what we have here. 1, 2 logos, 3 logos, and 4 logos. So I'm going to drag those over from my folder. Oh, these are WebP images. So let me go ahead and cancel here and show you what to do when you have these WebP images. So I'm going to take these and right click. When I open them, oh, right now they're opening in the browser, so I'm going to choose to open them in Paint so that I can convert them. So if I do right click, open with, Paint, and I'm just going to save them as a JPEG. Now these are not by any means any type of resolution image that I want to keep. It's actually a really bad resolution. I'll just save them as JPEGs because they aren't transparent. However, the reason why I'm using them is because it gives you an idea of what people expect for step and repeat from other companies. So here's some examples. Here you have a single logo here. This one is a single logo, but it goes big logo, small logo. This one, this is 2 alternating logos. So it could be the same company that may have 2 alternating logos, or 2 different companies that are teaming together for a specific event. This one is the same layout, it's just bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and lay out the smaller layout, and then what I'll do is I'll expand it to be bigger, and the rest of it will hang off the page, but you'll have the same layout, just bigger logos. And then we'll do the logo where we have the large version of the logo that kind of blocks some of the other logo. I'll show you how to do that. And of course we'll do a 3 logo layout. I don't know if we're going to do a 3 and a 4 logo layout. Let's see where we get today and what I have available and ready for class, and then we'll just go from there. So like I said, we're going to do a JPEG version here of 1. Let's go ahead and do this one. Now this one's just an alternate one, but I like that it has the shapes that kind of give you an idea that it's going to be a different logo based on the different shape and color. So I'm going to right click, open with, Paint. And this also shows you how I get the source of some of my ideas. I don't just draw everything from my brain. I don't think anybody does. And if somebody tells you they do that, then they're probably trying to take credit for something that they don't deserve credit for. So I'm just telling you, yes, I use resources, I use inspiration, ideas. Of course, nothing that I do is going to be exactly like someone else's, but everyone draws inspiration from somewhere, even if it's nature. Alright, so this one I'm going to just expand. This one I don't have to worry about this one because we are actually going to just cover up and create a layer mask. So let's do a 3 up and a 4 up. So let's see, this 3 up, I like the diagonal. Let's roll with that one. And I'm just saving these right now as JPEGs so that I can bring them into Photoshop. Don't ask me why Photoshop won't do the WebP yet. I don't know if that's supposed to be a protective format. Eventually, you know how it'll be. All of those formats will be able to be easily downloaded. But until then, we'll work with what we have. So we have 4 logos down diagonal. And then I have the 4 logos where it kind of does alternating. So it'll do 2 logos alternating, another 2 logos alternating, I believe. Yep, 2 logos per line. So you see how it has 2 alternating here, 2 alternating here. Or we can go with the 4 diagonal. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this one can be a little unfair. If you have one company that's pretty much maybe the main company, it might get a little more attention because it gets more logo representation. And I think this one gets equal representation. So we'll try this one out. So we'll do open with the paint program, save as a JPEG. Alright, so now what I'm looking to see here is where are my JPEGs, sort by the date. Oh, you know what? I think it was putting it in a different folder. It certainly was. Let me see what folder I was putting it in. Easiest way to do that, open with, paint, then do a save as again and see where it was saving that. Oh, it was saving it in my workshop folder. So let's go to that workshop folder and grab those things. Speaking of the workshop, we do have another workshop coming up this weekend. So this Saturday and Sunday in the Jacksonville area. We're actually in Yulee, which is about 13 miles from the Jacksonville airport. So if any of you are interested in that workshop, we had a lot of fun. Check out the video we did yesterday to kind of show you what we did. And if you have any questions about that as I'm working through here, you all are free to ask me any questions. Alright, so what I'm going to do, because this is a little confusing, make a new folder. And this will be the ideas folder. So that's where I'm going to drop those 4 images. And now I can drag and drop all 4 of those images right here. They are going to be tiny, and that's completely okay. This artboard is huge. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have to save periodically because since this artboard is huge, when you start working in backdrops, you get into some really large files. It's actually, if you had all vector images, it would be so much better to do this in Illustrator just because the files would be a lot smaller. But most of the time, people are not giving us scalable graphics. So they're giving us bitmap images, and we're going to have to work with this, and this is going to be my solution to that. Okay, so let me make sure I got everything pulled in that I need so I can pull this folder off to the side. Oh, there's a plugin so you can use the WebP in Photoshop. Thanks, buddy bro. I appreciate it. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one. This one's also some layouts here, some layout ideas. So I want to make sure I only have one file open right now. And like I said, I am basically laying this out so that it can eventually be a template. So what you're learning from me at this point in time is pretty much how I do it from scratch. Alright, so this is set up as an 8x8. The reason why I have the 8x10 here is because I choose to do the wider 8x10 because it allows more people to stand in front of it. So I'm going to design it as an 8x10, and then we can cut it down to an 8x8 if need be. Alright, so right now I have a square and a rectangle logo that I have set up, and I want to make sure I have enough space between them. So this one, I'm going to start with the 2x. So let's go ahead and make everything invisible. We'll do the 1x. So this means there's one logo per row. It's just a 1x1. So one logo, and I'm going to make sure I turn auto select off. I don't know how that just turned on just now. But I have both my square and my rectangle logo. I'm going to go ahead and intentionally mess them up. So you can see here, I'm going to align them by the center. So I'm going to skewer them down the center vertically and skewer them horizontally. So now they are pretty much have the same center origin. And I'm not following this to a T because I'm going to show you what we can do in just a little bit. So I am going to Alt, click and drag. And then I believe I can Alt, click and drag each of these. And I am, visually trying to make sure they are spaced apart, but that is not my objective. I'm going to show you what's going to happen in just a moment. It looks like I might need one more, kind of barely hanging off there. Alright, so each of these groups, I am literally going to group just to make sure that everything stays in place. I can always ungroup things later. Each pair I'm grouping, and I really should have just started off grouping one of them, and then I could have just duplicated each as a group. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to take all of these groups and I want to create the exact amount of spacing between them. So I am going to choose this operation here, which is to distribute horizontally. And you'll see they nudged a little bit to create the same amount of space there. I'm going to Control T and just shrink this down just a little bit. I want to make sure that I kind of make this same pattern happen. And I did Control minus to zoom out just a little bit. Alright, so let's say that is my layout for the top row. Then I could absolutely group that. Alt click and drag. And I'm trying to get about centered there. Of course, I want this to be about centered between here. And I'm just visually checking and it looks centered there. Let me turn on my rulers. And from here to the center, I'm going to guess that's the center there. And the way that I find out is if I go to that group and do Control T. Well, not the entire group. Let me go to this little individual group. Let's do Control T, and I see that I'm centered there. And then I want to choose this group, plus I'm going to hold down Shift and choose this group. Let me open it up so we can see if it's selecting it. So this group, there we go, holding down Shift, and this group. So I have those two groups selected. If I do Control T, I can see that I need to move down just a little bit to get that centered. So I'm going to take this whole group and inch it down just a little bit. And then I'll look at my center again. And now I think I need to move over to the right, just one nudge. And then this should be centered. There we go. Alright, so like I said, I'm just kind of following a pattern that exists, and sometimes when you're doing your step and repeats, you're going to have to do some adjustment depending on whether you have a rectangular image or a square image, whether you want your logos bigger and closer together or further apart. This is just going to be a suggestion. Okay, so now once I have these two groups, I'm going to group that, and I'm going to Alt and bring that down. And it looks like we should have the same, oh, you know what I forgot to do? Check the spacing between these two groups before I started. So between these two, although I'm using the existing image as a guide here, I'm going to bring down the opacity so I can kind of get an idea of where my center line is, about there. And I think it's actually locking to the center line of my shapes, which appear to be almost centered. So let me take this and Control T here. And Control T here. I'm just checking to see my spacing. This one looks like I have a little more spacing down here at the bottom. Could be really mathematical. I mean, like really mathematical. And let's just take the top one, shift and bring it all the way to the top here. And if I know my shape size, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Let me turn my opacity up just a little bit. There we go. So if I know my size of my shape, so for instance, group number 9, I'm going to pull it up. I'm holding down shift so I don't move it side to side. I'm just moving it up and down. But I know that the end of this square is, let's do our properties for that square. It is 239, no, the pixels are 18 by 931. That can't be true. Oh, that's for my rectangle. Okay, so for my square, it should be 1361 by 1361. And that's just arbitrarily what size it ended up being when I stretched it out. So if I know this is 1361, then I know half of 1361 divided by 2 is 680.5. Now, one thing I can do, which is what I think I'm going to do, is go ahead and make, I should have just made this an easy number so that it'd be easier for you all to follow. Let me go back for a second. I'm going to go all the way back. All the way back. Oops, I should have kept the last group. Group 8 is what I should have kept. Okay. We'll call that group 1. Or just group it right now, so it'll number it accordingly. All right, so I have these two skewered about the center and center. So my square, let's see, right now, if I do Control T, instead of the percentage, I'm going to go with the pixels. And the only reason why I'm using pixels is because I could also use inches or anything else. Pixels are just a little more direct and clean numbers when you're trying to divide. Sometimes you try to divide fractions of inches and you get a little confused. So at this point, my rectangle is, let's say 900 is my height. It should automatically make my rectangle width 1800 because I kind of did a 2-to-1 ratio. Same thing with the square. I'll do Control T. And then my square is about 1300. And I'm just going to boost it up to 1400. And I don't want any extras after that. I want 1400 on the dot. It's not giving me that, so I'm going to go with the 1400.04. All right, which in a pixel should be nothing. So I'm going to take these two again, and because I changed their sizes, I'm going to make sure that they are centered on both the vertical and horizontal there. And now when I have my line here, it should be right at 1400. If I take this group, Control T, want to make sure it's not hanging off the artboard. I'll lock it right in there to that corner. So this should be exactly 1800 here and 1400 here. So in class, y'all will not be doing all this in class, I guarantee you. But for those of you who are very interested in how I do things from scratch, like I said, this is one of those rare opportunities to hear me walk through it and see what I do and what my thought process is. In Photoshop and any other tool that can be used to solve a problem, there are a million ways to solve the same problem. So right now, if I were to solve this problem a week from now, I probably would come up with a different way to set it up and a different solution. It's just that's how many ways there are to really change and solve any problem. And another thing I'm going to do here is make this a little bit bigger so that my guide kind of matches my rectangle there. So I feel a little bit better about my placement. And this is just arbitrary here. Like I'm just arbitrarily seeking a layout. That's it. All right. So now we have this little group, and just to let you know, this is a smart object, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you know right now I'm just representing it with colors. I'll go ahead and turn the opacity all the way up for this group so you can see that what I have a few logos here. I have our new blinger sling in, I have our true colors, and basically what I'm going to do is show you a layout with one logo, with two logos, with three logos, and maybe with four logos, depending on how much time and energy I have left. So if I choose yes to update there, it will save that presentation of the logo. We also have our Sew Pro Academy, which is Q's group, where she shows you how to sew things from scratch and do cut and sew with sublimation, which is amazing. And then of course Innate Academy, I'm going to update that. So now you see instead of the color images, now you're seeing the actual logos. So that is how they will be presented. And this one, even though it's centered with that Y hangs a little low, I think I'm going to pull it down. There's a such thing as an actual center, like a mathematical center, and then a visual center. Because this font, and almost any font when you do lowercase, you're going to have characters that hang below the baseline of the text. It could make it look off if you put it by the true center. So the true center includes this little part that hangs off, but it looks like it's not centered because I have so much less white space here than here with that hang off. So I'm just manually adjusting it down so that it visually makes sense to me. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and hit yes, update that, and it just updates on the smart object there. Okay, so a single logo, whether I have the square or the rectangle, is what we're dealing with. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn them back to my colors because they're easier to visualize the space that it takes up. I just wanted to let you know that those are eventually going to be logos today, but for right now we're dealing with the shapes. All right, so now at this point in time, I'm going to take this group, Alt, click and drag, and we can use the mathematics here to transform and pull these over a certain amount. However, I'm probably going to regret this because I am a mathematical person. I think I like things to be a certain way. We're going to go with this way right here, and honestly you can see it's locking in. Those magenta lines are locking in the same amount of spacing with that 777 in between. And then what I'll do is each of those groups, this is why I was saying I should have grouped it first, because now each of those groups I can close them down, select all of those groups, and then I can make sure that they are evenly spaced horizontally. So it's distributed horizontally. I feel like I didn't select all of them. Let me see. And I believe this one might have been pulled a little further out. Alright, and because I don't have a little sample one here, I think that kind of threw me off a little bit. Alright, let's see what happens when we take all of these individual groups and distribute them horizontally. I'm still ending up with a little more space here that I don't want. There we go. Okay, so these are distributed evenly, and then what I'll do is that last one, in order to make sure it's on point, let me alt click and drag this and bring the opacity down, make sure it lines up, and then that way this final one, you can alt click and drag here, and I'm pretty much following the same pattern. Let's go ahead and distribute those, and I'm good. All right, so here we go. We have this top row. I'm going to alt click and drag to the next row. And if my spacing is correct, then this one is, what did I say, 1400. Let's grab another one. So this one is giving me approximately 2174 from 1400. So 2174 from 1400. Let's see if that's what I'll do on 774, which is what we had before. So if you remember, the spacing between them was about 774, and now the spacing that I'm dragging it down is about 774, and I'm okay with that. All right, so now I have to shift this one over a little bit. So I'm going to hold down shift so that it only goes side to side. And I think I need to put one more to that top one just to be safe before I create this copy. Now it's going to be hanging off, but hopefully it'll be hanging off by the same amount. 774. Alright, so now I'll take all of those, let's distribute them evenly. And then now, here we go. Now I have a Control T on right now. It's not going to find my exact center because this is not centered. But what I will do is take these two here, Control T, and then I'm going to make sure that together these are centered. And you'll see that little magenta line pop up most times when it's centered. And you also want to keep in mind that if you are going to have any pole pockets or grommets or that sort of thing, that will come into play, and we'll kind of clean that up as our afterthought, just to make sure that either we have a bleed area, either your printer is going to ask you for a bleed area, or that's going to cut into your actual graphic. So if they say they're going to do an 8x10 banner, when you tell them you want a 2-inch pole pocket, it's no longer going to be 8 feet tall. It's going to be 8 feet minus about 4 to 6 inches, depending on how much they need to create your pole pockets. Or your if you want grommeted edges, it's probably going to be about minus an inch or two off of each side. So we'll talk about that later in class as well. I'm going to give you some of my resources for when I do outsource printing. And then I will also let you know that these, if you did have one big sublimatable banner, that you can with an inexpensive press these as long as you keep the background white. Alright, and it doesn't require tiling. It's just basically placing your images one at a time on the white background and using one of the craft presses to just lay on top of it. Make sure you have a backing on the back that can absorb the heat, and you're just going to go through and press each logo. So you can do some fancy stuff with this with very inexpensive equipment, and we'll be talking about that as well. Alright, so I'm just getting my placement on right now. And we did make sure that we spaced these out accordingly, so I'm happy with that. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and bring everything down, because I was just bringing it to the top for the sake of being able to see where the very top origin was. But of course we're not going to be designing it with the image on top like that. And if I look at my original image, that's my 8 to 8 is right about there. That's my edge, so I should be good right there. Now keep in mind, this is my 8 by 10, so my 8 by 8 would definitely be cutting off 2 feet from here. Alright, so I think I'm happy with the general layout here. I'm going to alt click and drag this entire group down. And then I will hold down shift and I'm going to drag this over. That looks good to me. Then instead of doing that pattern all over again, I'm going to take both of these groups, alt click and drag. And now I should be able to kind of keep up with this. I'll do another alt click and drag. And I don't need to alt click and drag both of these, but I will, and then just delete that last one that we can't see. Alright, so now each of these I'm going to space out vertically. So I'm going to choose my vertical spacing. We saw very little movement, but that little bit of movement was just that you know, some of these might have been pulled a little further than the others from the vertical distribution, and now it's all worked out. And then let's say I want to make sure that my every other, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I will take these 3 that are visible right now, and I'll make sure that they're skewered in the middle, and they should be. See how they didn't move? Because when I pulled them down, I held down the shift key, which means they could only move in the up and down direction and not side to side. So I don't have to worry about that alignment. If I just wanted to check and see if I had good horizontal alignment here, it's perfect. So nothing even shifted. So I'm going to go ahead and turn these back on because I have faith that I did those properly. And now I can go ahead and shut off my little bricks that I had on before that were kind of guiding me where to put things. And as you can see, we have a slight pattern here. So let me go ahead and save, because like I said, these are huge files and I should be saving very frequently just because of the size of this file. Now they'll tell you to design at 300 dots per inch. I'm just designing at 150 because this file size at twice the size would be humongous. It is already 5 gigs. So when you get into designing banners and backdrops, please keep in mind these are really huge files, and if you plan on getting fancy with it, like bringing in different layers, it becomes more and more complex, a bigger and bigger file. Okay, just keep that in mind. That's why when I'm done with these, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of them, because even though they are tiny files, they do take up graphic size. So once I'm done with this, I'll clean them up and delete those so you don't have them in your way. Alright, so let's just test this for right now. Let's test how this single logo situation works out. And we have our square and our rectangle logo. So I'm going to bring that to the front, and then I'm going to rename this square logo 1 and then rectangle logo 1. So if I want it to completely disappear, I don't want to have to go into each and every one of these and make it disappear. So what I'm going to do is go into just my rectangle one and just turn all my eyeballs off. So all of my visibility is off. I hit yes. Everywhere there was a rectangle is now invisible, right? So let's go into the square now. And let's say that we're going to go with our true logo. We'll hit yes to update the smart object. Boom, there's a step and repeat ready to go for you. So that's the square one. Let's see how the rectangular one works out, because what I'm doing is troubleshooting for you right now. So the rectangular one is turned off. We're going to turn it on. Say yes that we want to save the changes. Right, and then we have to go to our square logo and make it completely not visible from the smart object, not just the layer up there. And as we can see, it works out with the rectangular logo too. That's awesome. So I'm going to call this group. This is my one, well, let's just say one logo, right? So I'll have a folder that's one logo, two logos, three logos. So we got our one logo in. Cool. Now for the two logos, what I'm going to do is let me alternate. And because our square and our rectangle pretty much take up the same space, I'm going to see how that works out. Let's duplicate this group. I'm going to call this one the two logo. Now for the two logo, I can keep the same layout. It's got the same smart objects, but what I'm going to do is make both logos visible. And I don't mean visible here, I mean visible within the smart object. So I'll turn on the true, and then I'll turn on the Innate Academy. And like I said, this is a huge file, so you have to give it time to update. Alright, and I'll turn on the Innate Academy, and they're going to conflict here. And that is okay. Alright, so now what we're going to do within this one, because we're just alternating two logos, I feel like we should be able to take our two logo, and let's say this one's going to start with a square. So we'll go to this particular group, and each one of these groups will have to turn off the that rectangular logo. So I'm going to click, see if I can grab it specifically. Let's zoom in. Control plus a few times. I'm going to take off my guidelines now. So I'm going to go to View, Show Guides, and turn those off. And let's go to that particular rectangular logo. Now because I want to keep this small, this file smaller, I'm actually going to go ahead and delete it. Okay, so I am deleting data, but for our one logo, it's there. Okay, for our single logo, it is there. Now for our two logo, I'm going to make sure that I delete every other group. I'm going to delete the rectangle logo. So for group 2, I'm going to delete the square logo. This one, the next one, I'm going to delete the rectangle logo. This one, I'm going to delete the square logo. I'm trying to remember my pattern here. And then this one, I'll delete the rectangle logo. Square, rectangle, and then can't see it, but let's go ahead and go to it. Square. Now I have an option at this point in time. I can go through this same pattern and go deleting these, or because I already have this pattern set up, I can actually alt click and drag and basically redo that other process. So once I have it centered, I'm going to shift and go left to right now. And make sure that I'm locking it in the right place. There we go. Boom. And then what I'll do, instead of deleting these right now, I'm going to turn the opacity down so that they are barely there. Just enough to help me see where the next logo should go. So I'm going to take these two. I'll click and drag. Lock them in place. I'll click and drag. Lock that in place. And then just finally this one right here. Oh, I grabbed the wrong one. I'll click and drag and pull that down. Okay, now all of my ones that are lighter in color, I'm going to turn them off just so I make sure I'm going to delete the right ones. And all of these that are invisible right now, I'm going to delete. Okay, so now for our two logo one. Oh, I think I messed up somewhere. Wait a minute. Oh, I see what I did. I just alternated 1, 2, and I should have continued this out. So if I wanted it to keep going back down, because right now what it did is kind of did like a 4-step, like a 1 logo's here and then 4 around it. But I think what I wanted it to do for my double pattern was follow this pattern. Alright, so let me try that again. Oh, that's what I should have done. I should have kept my long one first and then my short one. But let's do it again. This is all fun. This is all a part of the exploration process. I'm going to do Control T so I can get my image kind of within this little 8-foot area here. It's so hard to see it because it's so pixelated. This is a really small image. And like I said, I'm just using it to understand what placement I want. So it is not, you know, exactly exact. There we go. Alright, so for this one, if I want my long and my short, now this is the other thing, I have a rectangular and a square logo. So if I wanted this to truly be square, I would do all of the square logos, all of the long logos, and then a mix of them. But that would be way too many combinations for one file. So I'm doing my best to make it really simple. So for my 2 logo, let me just go ahead and do a little placement here. I'm actually going to delete that square logo, take my entire group and start with the long instead of the short. Here we go. And then I'm moving things so that, and I'm holding down my shift key so that's only moving it left and right, because I want to get it visually within this pattern here. And then if I happen to get something out of place, then we'll do our little alignment tools. There we go. And then I'm going to take this one, move it, and instead of bringing the opacity down, I'm just going to put it on multiply. I'll click and drag. There we go. This isn't even lined up. Okay, see how these circles are different distance here to here? Yeah. So we're going to have to trust. And I think it's because they put more space at the end so that basically you don't cut off a logo, which makes sense. But yeah, I'd rather go ahead and know that it's straight. So let's go ahead and I'm going to take this logo, which is a square, hold down shift, and also take this rectangle logo, and I'm going to alt shift and bring that down. Don't ask me why I'm making it harder, but I just am. Alright, now here I'm going to get rid of all of these groups. Let's do delete group. It's going to give you an option. Oh, not duplicate. I don't know why duplicate and delete are right by one another. We want to delete the group. It's going to give you an option to delete the group and the contents, or the group only. I'm going to delete the group only because what I want is for this stuff to come out of these folders. Because when I have the alternating design, I want to be able to tell what my alternate situation is. Let's delete that group, group only. And that was duplicate. I want to delete group, group only. Then one more, delete the group. Alright, so our two logos set up now, and I'm even going to delete this group right now. Alright, and then let's go ahead and select each of them, and let's distribute them horizontally. Oops, I got to turn them on. Alright, and before I distribute them, I wanted to make it visible to see if any of them moved. So let's distribute and see how they inch just a little bit. So now I can be sure that they have the proper spacing. And what I will do is this I will group now. And then I'm going to alt click and drag this group. Now what I have to do is center this one the long way. And it looks like I'm missing one right here, so let me add another square here. And it kind of gives me that hint that that's where it's supposed to be, but just in case, I'm going to take this entire group and distribute, and nothing moves, so that's perfect. Alright, so now we have 10 and 10 copy. I can alt click and drag, and I think what I'm going to do is instead of doing the 2 down to repeat, I want this to kind of keep repeating until it falls off. So I might even need a 3 and a 4 to pull over. So let me take this one, alt click, let's bring it down. And then I'm going to shift it over. Oh, that's how it should be. So I can go ahead and take my 2 before. It's just throwing me off because I see that sort of that square and rectangle, and it looks like it's off, but it's on. So when I pull this down, and I'm pull it down again, and then I'm going to make sure that I use my alignment tools there. And then this one, oops, was that the right one? Alright, so now let's take all of these groups and let's disperse them vertically. There we go, got a little bit of shift in there. That's cool. Alright, so that's our two logos set up. So I'm going to turn off the background image now just to see if that looks good. And that looks good to me. And keep in mind, this is a square to rectangle. So if we did a square and a square, let me see what this rectangle would look like if I just did, let me change the canvas size here. Nope, let me not change the canvas size. And what I will have to do, if I wanted a square alternatively, so now with the 3 logo, this is not going to work the same way because I only have 2 smart objects. So for my 3 logo, I'm going to have to switch it up. And for the 3 logo, I'm just going to do the square. So that basically if you have a longer image, you're just going to have to put it into a square orientation. So we have our 2 logo. Let's go in with a 3 logo. I'm going to duplicate my 1 logo only because it already has a top row set up, and then I'm going to call this my 3 logo. And I will get rid of all groups, or how about this, I'll group them and bring the opacity down just to know how much space I have there. Oh, I will get rid of them because I have a 3 logo layout here. Now the 3 logo layout is a little bit awkward because it has 2 rectangular and 1 square. But we're just going to pretty much treat this as if they are all squares. Okay, so basically it looks like it alternates logo 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, etc. So what I'm going to do is my group 1 is going to consist of 1 logo. And then what I'm going to have to do is create, it's still going to be a smart object, but I want a new smart object. I don't want this to be the same old smart object that changes with everything else. So I'll call this square logo 1. This will be square logo 2. Duplicate. Oh, not duplicate, because duplicate is going to make it just another version of the smart object. I want a new smart object to be a copy. And now that's square logo number 3. Alright, so these are different instances now. So my square logo number 2, I'm going to allow it to be the blingers. And then my logo 3, I will allow it to be where is it? My SoPro logo. Alright, so all 3 of these are on here right now. So I'm going to take logo 2 and drag it over, logo 3, and I'm holding down shift while I'm dragging it so it stays in place. Drag it over, and you'll notice that that 3rd logo is really a rectangular logo. However, I want to keep with the square theme so that it puts everything in the proper spacing and perspective. So we're going to go with 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm going to alt click and drag those 1, 2, and 3s. And one more time, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so now I have 9 because it should be 3, 3, and 3. I'll take all of these and make sure that they are spaced horizontally. All right, you saw a little bit of shift there. And now what I'm going to do is just pay attention to where my red rectangle is. And I'm going to take this entire group. And I'm going to alt click select. I'm going to drag it down. And after I drag it down, then I can push it over, and then I'm going to hold down shift so that it only goes left to right. And the red rectangle is where the true should be. And then what I'll do is I will grab this logo, hold down shift, and grab this logo. If I can touch it, and zoom in a little bit here. Excuse me. Let's grab this one. And I'm holding down Alt so I can click and drag. Alright, so this looks like about the right layout here. Let's double check and see. That's line 1, that's line 2. I'll take 1 and 2 now, and I'm going to alt click and drag down. Oh, you know what? Since we had 3, but I have to do 3 rows before I can duplicate. So now I'm going to have to take this one and alt click and drag it down. Again, the true should be on the red. So once I get that, alt click and drag down there. Once I get my true on the red, so I am holding down shift as I drag true to the red. Let's see, I think it can go better here to the red. And one thing I'm checking here is to see if my group is kind of gonna diagonally make that connection. Alright, so it looks like I might have my pattern established. Now I'm going to go ahead and take these and make sure that they are distributed vertically. There we go. So, moment of truth. Let's alt click and drag this whole group. So now, you see I had to wait till I had a set of 3 before I dragged that group, because now I have 3 logos. So I have 3 ways that my image can repeat. And then it looks like we'll be taking this line here and repeating that here. Oops, I did not mean to do that. I meant to make sure that we are distributed vertically. There we go. So we all have the same space in between, and whew, let's check it. So this is our 3 logo layout. Let's turn off our help there, and I'm missing something here. I'm good here, good here. I am off here because this should continue. See, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3. 1 is off, 2 3. What am I missing here? Oh, when I repeated my pattern here, I should have on this next row, did an MB? Yep, so this one right here should have been a true. So, off with your heads. And this one right here, instead of repeating these 2, I should have put a true here. Alright, so now for some reason it is not displaying this right now, so let me save what I'm working on. If Photoshop doesn't display something or doesn't let you use your shortcuts like you're supposed to, go ahead and save. You may even have to close out and come back into it because it's usually something funky going on. But yes, because I didn't stay true to my pattern here, that's what threw me off for my repeat. So I want to make sure that I'm on point now. Let's go ahead and space everything out here. Oh, there's something hanging off there. Duh. Zoom in so I can grab this one. You have to be touching it in order to right click on it. There it goes. Alright. Alright, now let's go ahead and distribute everything in this group. There we go. Alright, so with that, I'm actually going to delete my group, my previous group, because it has less icons than this one. Let's go ahead and turn my 3X logo back on. I'll drag this one here and make sure it's about centered. And then I will I'll click and drag down. Now that should work out. Alright, so let's go ahead and do our third one now. And again, true should be over, about over the red mark. Now it looks like for this next one I need what becomes before true. I need a So Pro. If I can grab it. The So Pro one is a little hard to grab because it's so thin. It has a lot of white space. So if I want to grab it, I have to zoom in. Alright, and I will Alt hold down Alt so I can create a duplicate, holding down Shift so it doesn't go anywhere. Here we go. Alright, so now I'm going to make sure that these are distributed vertically, and then I should be able to Alt click and drag. And then we'll Alt click and drag this row here. And because he's a square, we're going to have to play with the making sure that they're vertically lined up a little bit. So let's do this group here. Alt click and drag it down. That should be, wait, was that the right one? No, we need this one, this group. Alt click and drag. Now we should be good. I'm going to go back and make sure that all of the logos are just square colors now, so we can make sure that they actually align properly. So now I need my original square logo 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to bring those to the top, and the reason why I put these at the top when I'm doing these smart templates is because I want you to go one place to change stuff and not have to change anything in these folders. Okay, so I'll turn off our little cheat sheet for now. Let's go into square logo 1, make it a block color. Alright, we go into square logo 2. Make it a different block color. Let's do orange. And then let's go into square logo 3. And honestly, this is probably what I should have done in the first place to make sure with the square logos we're going to have good placement, because I have a feeling we're going to have a little bit of issue here, because we started with rectangular logos and then I switched up with the 3-part. So there we go. Y'all get to see my process. This is what it is. Alright, so now that I kind of have an idea of how I wanted it before, I'm going to kind of do my own version here. Because with squares, I can find my vertical. I'll turn my cheat sheet on just a second. So I can get my my vertical placement. Alright, so what I'm doing with this, copy here. So I'm going to draw a diagonal line, and let's do it with the line tool. And if I draw a diagonal through 2 boxes, then it should continue through the remainder of the boxes. So let me do that. Let's take that line. I'm going to Control T it because it's not quite through here. Alright, so if that's where I want my diagonal to be, then I can follow that line. And I'm actually going to pull the stroke up on that and make it a little bit thicker. And I don't want to print that line, I just want it to exist enough for me to see what's going on. And I want to go outside. There we go. Alright. So like I said, I should have done this from the beginning, but You get to see the different ways you can problem solve and fix your own issues. So what I will do for this second one, I want to go, my blue is going to be what goes down my my diagonal path. So because I need one, it's missing one here in front of the blue. In front of the blue is the green, so I'll take the green. And see how it lines up exactly with that blue? That's what I should have been doing. And then I should also have enough to make sure that this next one can continue. So I will alt click and drag this one. I'm hitting that diagonal there, and of course I'm going to shift, pull it over. And then I had enough hanging off this side to where I could just pull that back. So is it lining up? Let's see. I don't think it is. So the only way it won't line up is if something is not aligned within this group. So let's take everything in this second group, including the one we just built in, and let's make sure that it is distributed horizontally. You saw that shift? That means we were not, we didn't have even spacing between them. But now, I should be able to resolve that. Alright, let's zoom in, let's check our diagonal here, and I think we can move this group up just a little bit. There we go. This group down just a little bit. And looks like we're going through our diagonal here, so now this should make sense. Let's see. And we'll shift this over. Alright, so if we did this correct, then these should be distributed and not move. That looks like that worked out. Now I can take all three. There we go. And then I should just need this one right here. Alt click and drag to make a copy of it. Now it looks like somewhere along the line we got off of our diagonal. So let's make sure that everything is good with the spacing in between. And then I'm just going to check my diagonal line. Looks like I'm a little bit off with my spacing. I might have to manually change it too. That one's going in, that one's going in, this one's going a little bit off. And now I apologize if I'm being a little meticulous here, but something is not lining up. And I'm sure it wouldn't matter too much for your step and repeat, like especially if it's logos, nobody will see, but something's off. Like I can tell right here, I'm not lined up. So to me, that's not gonna work with my square logos. And I think I can see it even here, that this isn't lined up. Alright, so let me do this one more time. Alt clicking and dragging. Make sure that I'm on point with my diagonal. And then I shouldn't have to do any particular math with my spacing. Okay, I think that's gonna be it. I think we got it now. And then I need to repeat this one. Nope. This one here. Alright, so I think we got it now. And then I'm just kind of making sure that I have about the same amount of white space all around for this, so I don't have one logo being cropped off more than another. Alright, oof. Now let's see what the three logos look like as logos instead of just colors. So let's square logo 1. Yeah, so I definitely think we're stopping at 3 on this one. So if y'all ever want me to do this template for more than 3 logos, I will, but it will just have to be a different setup and a different day. All right, so that's logo 1. Let's go with logo 2. And then logo 3. And maybe logo 3, in order for it to fill up more of the square space, I'm actually going to turn it. Well, let me duplicate it and then I'll turn the duplicated one. Just in case it looks funky, then I can change it back. Just want to make it a little bit bigger so that's more substantial. Oh, it has the words on it, so it may not look right as a rotated logo, so we shall see. I just want it to look as substantial as the other ones in the square layout. Oh, that actually looks pretty cool with it slanted like that. Alright, so we have 3 logos. Boom, we have 2 logos. And that second logo is actually the rectangular logo. And then we have a single logo that can do the rectangular or the square depending on which one you hide. All right, and then finally what I'm going to do is make an option to have one logo that pretty much shows up right about here, and then you'll be able to hide anything that is behind that logo. So let's say I do the rectangle logo. I'm going to Alt click and drag a copy of it, do a Control T and make it big here in the center. So like, let's say you were taking a photo in front of this and you wanted one main logo and you still wanted to show your other images. I want this centered about the middle of the artboard here. And I'll call this one the big one. So the big one's up top. You can turn this off or on, but it tends to have some stuff around it. So what you will have to do is create a layer mask here, and basically you can just take your polygon lasso tool, and let's say we're going with the single logo. Single logo has maybe these you want to not show. Right, and then you can just take your fill bucket, and as long as it's filled with black, which is your default color down here, we'll turn those off. Oops, I lied. We're going to select the inverse so that we can pour black to that. Let's see. Oh, no, we're not. We want to hide this part here. So we need a layer mask on this. There we go. Okay, so see how basically it erased, or it didn't erase, it hid or it hides. So black conceals, white reveals, so it hides everything that was in that little marching ant area. And let's see what it would be for the 2 logos. It may or may not have the same area that needs to be cut off. So for instance, for this one, I can leave this innate down here, but this true is intersecting with my logo. So I'll come down here, I'll leave that innate. Right? And then for this 2 logo, I'm going to create a layer mask, but I don't want to keep what's inside, I want to hide what's inside. So I can go to my layer, I can go to layer mask, and I want to hide the selection. So in that selection, it hid those individual pixels that were visible there. Alright, so on to logo 3. What do I need to hide? If I kept this in the exact same location, then I would go in and I would have to get rid of that one. It's kind of touching this one. I could kind of leave that true one there. I think that one would be fine. I can leave that DB there even though it's intersecting just a little bit. I think it still looks fine. And then for this one, I'm going to go to layer, layer mask, and I'm going to hide just the selection. Boom, there we go. So now we have a step and repeat that has some like a main logo in the center. So I think that's going to be important for you. So in class tonight, I want you to do bring three PNGs and let them just be PNGs. I don't mind if they're not your logos, if you're just trying to see how to set this up like for a birthday banner or something like that you're pressing for yourself. Personally, I can show you how, and let me go ahead and delete this little line here for the three logos, or I can just turn it off. Make sure everything is going smooth. And then if, let's say you don't use this and you're like, oh no, how do I get my stuff back there? Just right click and disable that layer mask and everything is right there. Alright, so this is something y'all been asking me about. I wanted to show you my process since I was running up on time on this one. I wanted to show you what I was working on for class. And let's go ahead now, let's do a switch out. Let's do a switch out, and that way we can make certain that it works. And I'm trying to think of what's a good theme. A good theme might be wedding, graduation, birthdays. Y'all give me an idea what you would want to see as a step and repeat banner. Anniversaries are big deals that people do backdrops for. Of course, if you have like a movie or a big premiere of something, a grand opening of a business, or a club or something to that effect, there are several reasons why people do the banner backdrops. So y'all give me an example and then I'm going to showcase that setup and example. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of those files so they won't be eating up your file size. Make sure I save. And what I want to express to you is that if you have polyester fabric, especially like you have a good stretch fabric, then you can leave the background white. Oh, that's what I'll do. I'll make it where you don't have to have the background white. So let me find a good background. Now this might make it a little larger. You can always do a solid color background just by going to your adjustment layers and solid color. Okay, and so you want to go with the black, gray, any other little color there. And I think with this one, because it has some colors going on there, I would probably stick with the neutral myself, either black or white. I think this looks really clean on a white background, but I just always want to give you all an option to change your colors. And I'm not just an old regular smegular flat color girl, so I probably will bring you in a some type of grunge background or something that makes it really interesting. Now if you are literally going to print these up as maybe, let's see what size this is. I'm going to actually change this over to pixels. Let me escape out of that, deselect there. So let's go to one of our logos here. The biggest one is that true one there. I'm going to come over here to my properties, and it's telling me the width and the height in pixels. But if I go here, let me see if I can change my preferences for the units and rulers. Instead of the pixels, let me change it to inches. So the ruler is going to be in inches. That means that now my transformations are going to show in inches, which if you ever wonder that, that's how you do it. So let's see, right now that's about an 8 by 8. Now if I really wanted to make this to where this could literally print on, what do we have, 8.5 by 11-inch paper, or that you can go ahead and print a couple of logos to a sheet of paper, then what I'll do, let me select everything except this background, and I'm going to reduce it just a little bit. And this should give you just enough Maybe I reduced it a little too much because I don't want any image hanging off. There we go. So that way if you put your pole pockets on there or your grommets, you won't be cutting off your logos. You should have plenty of bleed space there. And what we've done here is made our square logos to where they can each be printed probably 2 to a page. If you do your 13 by 19, you should definitely be able to get 2 to a page. If you're doing the 8.5 by 11 sheets, of course you're going to get 1 to a page. But if you truly wanted to do this, and I'll show you how you can use the craft heat press. Now you can do this on a regular heat press, but it's going to be so hard to figure out where your logos and everything are supposed to go. You'll have to mark the center of each print, like with a little tiny mark, maybe, you know, with some chalk or something. Then that way when you lay out your sublimatable when you lay out your sublimation print on top of it, it will be square cut. And you'll have to know that you're going along the right line. It can get a little tricky, but if you have the ability to like lay this out even on the floor, and you can move, you can take that that craft heat press, the one that you just hold over it. I have one from Heat Transfer Warehouse that's maybe like $140. So I'll show you that one and let you know how it works out. But basically you just move along and you will press each one of these. That's a lot of presses, but I've seen people charge a lot of money for these backdrops. I used to charge a lot of money for them because they are huge to deal with. They're huge files. They slow down your computer because the files are so huge, so I definitely charge for those. But I want you to know that there are ways to make it look like it is, you know, an all over print simply by spacing out your images and creating a look like this one. Alright, so I was talking, but I said I was going to look at y'all. Oh yeah, family reunion, class reunion. I could absolutely see that. So let's go with class reunion, because school's going to be starting up soon. Back to school is going to be starting up very, very soon, and usually your class reunions are going to come around like a football homecoming, right? And I'm sure that this will be something that if I do it as a class reunion, you all can use it for birthdays and everything else. So let's say a very special class reunion is what, the 20th, right? So I am going to look up just something that has the 20th in it, and it wouldn't be anniversary, it would be reunion. Let's see if I find something for that. Of course I find plenty of anniversaries. We'll take one of these and we'll just take anniversary off of it. And I was trying to give you something that you could kind of play with and use. This is from Free Pick. So let's go with, I like this 20 here. I think we'll go with that. Now these are probably going to be vectors, but I think they also give you the, oh, there's a 20 right there, just a plain old 20. I'll go with that. And let me make sure I log in. We'll roll with that. And see, there's one. See, I was looking for one that had like the years and stuff on them. Here we go. Alright, so I'm going to download that one. It says it's in JPEG, but I'm pretty sure we can clean that background out. So, there we go. And then, you know what, I'll use this one because it has the 10 up to the 90. And it just says years. So we'll go with that one. Alright, so that, and let's say you have a school logo. Somebody give me an example of school logo. And if I use your school logo for your what is it? Your high school. Then I'll also give you the template for free. So tell me your high school and your high school logo, and then we'll make a version for you. Yeah, oh yeah, homecoming is going to be back in full effect, especially after, you know, being suppressed for almost 2 years now. Well, 2 years by the time we come up on this next season. So we can expect that, you know, with the vaccinations happening and folks being more comfortable being out and about, that homecoming is going to be in absolute full effect this year. Maybe even in makeup effect. So I don't even know what that's going to look like. But I do plan on doing some of the like FAMU homecoming games and maybe even Florida Classic. So I'm looking forward to it. Alright, so we got our 20. Got that. Alright, Mary Pearson Bulldog. Oh, that's the one that I saw. Let's see, Mary Pearson. And sorry, Tamika, I skipped that because I didn't see your Leland High School Cubs. So let's see. Mary Pearson Bulldogs. Oh, persons. Okay, I was going to say, my bad. There we go. And they use the same bulldog that we do for Mariana. So I think I have that bulldog, a vector version, if I can't find it. But it won't have the MP on the collar. So I'm trying to find a good logo. And you see a lot of these are like just lower quality images that you pretty much have to clean up. So I am doing my best to avoid doing that. Yeah, so that one's going to be a little hard to do. And I want you all to come with your logos ready to go. That one I know I would have to clean this up. And I have this logo, but I would have to clean it up and put the initials there. So let's try something else. You know what might be a really good business is just cleaning up some of these high school images and giving them nice quality, you know, vector images that they can reuse. Because I do see it gets a little hard to get some of these logos. Here, this one is a good one, but it's cut off. Let me see if I can find anything like it. So normally in Google, if you click on one, it'll kind of show you some other presentations of that same logo. And I just don't see it. And this one is just cut off right here. So even if I open this image in a new tab, it's still going to be cut off right there. Good thing is, let me do this. So I'll save this image and I'll show you what I can do with it. So these are the Leland Bulldogs. So this one will require a little bit of art, but not too much. I can go ahead and open that up in Photoshop. Because this looks like a symmetric design, I think that I can take one side and pretty much copy and paste it and create the other side. So I'm going to give myself a little more canvas size so that I can work with. Background color, let's do it as white, or we can do it as black since it's already black. Let's make the width be 10 inches just so I have some space here. We'll keep everything anchored to the center, hit OK, and now I have more space here. So what I'm going to do is grab a little more than half here. I'm going to copy and edit, paste special, paste it into place so it pastes it right on top there. You can't even tell it's there. Control T is going to allow me to transform. And then I'm going to right click and flip it horizontal. And then I'm just going to hold down shift until it looks like it pretty much overlaps and locks into place. Bring the opacity down a little bit. And it looks like that's it. Bring my opacity completely back, make sure it lines up. Using my move tool here, I'm just nudging it over a little bit. That looks good, so I'm going to take these two and merge them. So I'll flatten that image. And then I'm just going to treat it as one image. So I'm going to take all the black from the outside. Now I selected the outside meat. I want the inside meat, so I'm going to select inverse. So now I have the inside meat selected, and then I'm going to go to select and mask and make sure it's going to be smooth here. I don't want any feathering, but I also want to make sure that I don't have any pixelated kind of bumpy edges here. Alright, so I can deal with that, and I'm going to go ahead and clip out that background. Looks like I could have clipped it in a little bit more because it's grabbing a little bit of that black. So let me go back one more step. Let's go to select and mask, and I'm going to shift the edge in just a little bit. There we go. And hopefully that will capture a lot of that black that was showing. Alright, let's make sure that works now. Alright, so I will call that good enough because I'm probably going to add a little drop shadow or something to it anyhow. I'm going to go ahead, right click, apply that layer mask, and for the, I'm going to save this as a PNG. So if I right click, I'll name this, what is that called? Leland Cubs. Right click, and I'm going to quick export that as a PNG. Alright, so now we have the school logo, we have the 20, and let's do like just kind of the name of the high school, right? So I'm going to close out of that. We'll say no, I don't want to save those changes because we have them saved as a PNG. So we'll have, what is that, LHS for Leland High School, right? So I want to go with the same styling as the gold for the lettering, so let me pull that up. You can go ahead and extract those numbers there. Now this is going to pull up in Illustrator because it is in, I think it's an EPS file. Just basically it's a vector. So I'm going to just clear everything from it other than the number. That's all I want is a number. And I could see from the logo what the school colors are. Basically like a maroon and white, probably maroon, white, and black, some neutral colors with maroon. And I see here they have the LHS, so we'll do our own version of that just because I don't like how that looks. But if you had your logo, I'll just call that LHS. We're gonna just create our own little version of that to make sure it looks clean and good, and we'll just do it with text. Alright, so all I want to do is just grab the part that is important, which is going to be that number there. Uh-oh, I got too much going on at once, y'all, so hopefully we can stay together. Let me zoom in here and see if I can just grab the number. There's a lot going on here. Alright, so this is going to be a complete vector. I'm just going to grab what I can And let's say we want it to be school logo, then the 20th, then the LHS. Okay, so whatever I have here for square logo number 2, I'm going to go up to square logo number 2 and change it out. Need to copy and paste this. So let's go to edit, copy, and then I can do paste. You can also drag and drop, but sometimes that doesn't work. But what is it doing? It might be because this is CMYK versus... Okay, well, I think I'm freezing right now. Let me calm down for a second. I'm doing too much clicking. Give it its moment. Let's see if I can drag and drop this into Photoshop. It's giving me some kind of error. Oh, there it goes, finally. And then what I'm going to do is just double click on it and change only this 20. So I also have this one. Let's just go ahead and go with this one. Deselect, let's go to select subject. Because this other one I have to do too much cleaning up in Illustrator, and I'm trying to get through this with y'all. And obviously it didn't select everything it was supposed to. So I'm going to keep that. I'm going to keep this right here. I'm just using a quick select here instead of, usually I use remove BG with y'all, but every now and then we can show you some other methods in Photoshop. And it's kind of confused on whether to include the shadow down here on the ground or not. So I'm trying to tell it not. But you'll see it'll get a little confused and probably go into the lettering a little bit. So all I can do is just kind of add and subtract until it makes sense. But this is why a lot of times I like to use remove BG, because it does have a good inherent idea of what you really want to keep. Make this a little bit bigger here. And then I do believe that all this down here needs to be cleaned up. I believe we could do a much better job cleaning that up. And I don't want any feathering, but I am smoothing it a little bit. Alright, so that's good enough for me. I'm just going to say okay, and let's go ahead and create a layer mask for this. Looks like we're a little frozen right now. And I should have been saving my big old file as I was going. So hopefully the live stream isn't going to keep me from saving right now. And I'll go ahead and shut down Illustrator. I'm doing remove BG just to see. I'm curious if this would have been able to clean this image up quicker. It looks like Photoshop is freezing up on us, so hopefully y'all stay connected with me, because when Photoshop acts a fool, it usually shuts everything down. And it doesn't even show Photoshop is performing right now, so that is a big problem. Alright, so it looks like we are officially frozen up. I can't even tell if y'all are still there because I can't see any of these windows. I'm getting Alright, so it looks like my Chrome and my Photoshop are competing right now with the live broadcast. So if I don't get to finish this up live with you all, then I will make sure that I do include this in the class tonight. My task manager is not even showing up right now. So that is a huge problem. So y'all are still here, but it won't let me click on anything? I'll put the class up just as soon as I finish updating this template. So just make sure that it usually is up 24 hours before class. Of course, that's not the case today. So as long as you go ahead and download your files before, I'll usually shut it down right at like 5 minutes before 8 o'clock, because anybody that's downloading stuff like at 8 o'clock is obviously not going to be ready for the 8 o'clock class. So as long as you have it downloaded, while the class is open, it'll be open until 8. Probably about 10 minutes till 8, because we start class at 8. And I want to make sure that you have everything downloaded. Okay, so class starts 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be uploaded within the next hour, as long as my computer quits playing games with me. So let me see if it's possible. I may even have to shut down or restart in order to get things back to normal, because I cannot even get to my task manager, and I don't even know if y'all can see me trying to get to my task manager right now, but it ain't happening. Something was going on with my Windows Explorer, and that's funny because this computer just updated Windows today. So go figure, I'm having issues with Windows when it updated. So let me close out of this. I may come back on live in just a second just to show you all the change out to the anniversary or the school homecoming theme, and hopefully I'll be able to finish up that demonstration. Okay. All right, love. So I'm going to close out. I'm probably going to have to shut down my computer, and hopefully I'll be back in just a moment and I can demonstrate the rest of this. And you all got to see like an important part of the actual building process, and that it does, you know, take a little time, energy, and thought to put into how you even create your templates. But once you are able to create that process, then you can make it something that you can use over and over again. All right, so I will see y'all tonight, 8 p.m. I may see you earlier if I'm able to go back on live and show you this demonstration. All right, loves, I love y'all, appreciate y'all dearly, and until next time, bye.